What's up, everybody? The Common Sense Messiah is back. Today, we are about to challenge one of the mainstream phenomenons that we see. This is the downfall of the man in the modern day society. And I blame it on the women. The women have failed the men. hmm And they are the reason why the men are the way they are today. Bear with my thought process as I engage in this folly, right? So, I say, and this is something that can be proven through evolutionary biology, that the whole point the goal of every species is to ensure that the species continues to survive and to thrive. So they must continue replicating, and not only replicating, but replicating along the superior lines of breeding in terms of genetics being passed from one generation to the other. And the way we used to do that as humans is women selected for quality and men select for quantity, which is why in our nature as men, we want to have sex with multiple women. And in the women's nature, because they select for quality, they are hypergamous. They select for the best man possible, right? And that is why society is the way it is today. It's built on those two. The mating strategies are built on those two things. But something else happens in the mind of men. Men are bare minimum creatures in the sense that by ourselves, we need very little to feel happy. We need very little to feel satisfied. We are simple creatures. The complexity we see in life is brought about by the presence of women and families. So that is why we had to innovate 90% of the world to accommodate the comforts of our women and our kids, which is why the houses are the way they are, which is why the roads are the way they are, vehicles, all these things. The small, small comforts of life come as a result of women. So, why is it I'm blaming the women on the downfall of men? Because up to this point, women have always selected for quality where it matters, or superiority in the male ranking where it matters. So, in the days where we didn't have much infrastructure, strength, proper genes, height, good looking, healthy, the capacity to hunt, all these things were the things that women would select for. And that was what would define the alphas, or the males that have multiple women with them, right? So every man knew that for them to have women, they need to be like that guy. They need to aspire to improve their physical shape, hunting capacity, conquering, all these things. So men wanted to self improve so they can appease the women. And this led to a lot of innovations being done. Because one man is improving on this sector, another one is improving on another sector, another one is dominating in another sector. They're all going for the same women, but they need to be in their best shape possible in whatever field they're in whatever mental capacity and all these things, because they know that is what attracts the women. And the funny thing, for men who have not yet understood their purpose outside of women, most of them tend to derive their purpose from pursuit of sex. I know it sounds funny, but it's true. If a man doesn't have anything driving him at the back of his mind, there are those who are very ambitious in terms of their goals and they have a purpose. They know I was made here maybe to do good music. I was brought here maybe to be the best filmmaker. I exist purely to be the best sportsman at this. So they already have their goal defined for them. But for the rest of them, their primary agents for their primary agency for ambition is the pursuit of women. So they know if they are bums, doing nothing, not ambitious, not good looking, not conquering, the women are not going to love them. They're not. So they have to do their best. And that was what made men want to self improve. But look at the modern day society we have. The men have become very neutered because the women have lowered their standards. And not just lowered, they have straight up removed them. We have different constructs that are showing this. Look at the porn industry. A man doesn't need anymore to approach a woman for him to achieve sexual satisfaction. He could be jacking off to porn the whole day. He doesn't need a woman. He doesn't need to pursue them. Doesn't need to look good for them. Doesn't need to conquer the world to appease them. Doesn't need to, self-improve. Why? Random access porn. It's always there. Anytime he wants to engage it, just search. One search on the internet, boom. He has a whole library of porn videos. And on top of that, if he's got little money, there's some very cheap whores on the internet that are very good looking, but very affordable. Why? Because a lot of women have flooded the prostitution marketplace, be it on OnlyFans, be it on random hookup sites, be it even on some of these platforms that are like delivery like delivery apps for hookers. You book a hooker, you pay her, and she comes to your house. You send her the address, she comes to your place. It happens. And because there's so many of them that are doing that, you find that men have access to very beautiful women are doing it prostitution for very cheap prices, very easy prices. As if that's not even worse. If a man is just naturally charming or a little bit outgoing and they exist in these public spaces, maybe in the workplace, and is a charming guy in the clubs, entertainment scene, everywhere, he has access to multiple women who are willing to, even in some extent, give it to him for free. Just because he's a funny guy, just because he's a good looking guy, just because he's a charming guy. So he doesn't have to self improve to have the women. His bare minimum existence is already validated by the number of women he can access at any particular point. He doesn't feel like going out sure there is porn he's gonna jack off. He feels like going out sure there's ladies at the club he can hook up with for free. He feels like he doesn't want to go to the club and he needs like a masterful experience show. There's a hooker who has a whole bio listed with her, a whole list of things she can do sexually to this guy to please him. For a fair amount of price, they can get that. So this has diluted the quality of men we have because the desire to mate has been the primary agency for men to want to self-improve throughout most of history. And right now, we are at a plateau where women have zero standards, which is why I blame them for the downfall I see with men today. Men no longer have to be extra to be phenomenal. So right now, the only thing that is pushing men to want to be great is their own goals, people who have ambition and the drive to follow those dreams. And as it so happens, as it was even in history, it's very few. Because very few men have the capacity for ideation, setting up systems, and then getting to employ every other man to come and fulfill his dream. Very few had that capacity. And it still is today. Very few men have that leadership capacity to come up with that vision, something, and draft it, put it on paper, set up a system for how he's going to achieve it, and then that gets to give employment to these other men. Very few men have that capacity. And as it so happens, they tend to be the only one who have not been affected by the infectious nature of the amount of corruption that is happening in the modern society today. So which is why there is a very big gap between men. For those who are hyper successful and those who are not successful. Between each level, there tends to be a very big gap. There's never in betweens. For the middle income, there's those that are the bottom tier middle income and the top tier middle income about to jump to the next level. For the next level, there's the wealthy, and then the hyper wealthy. There's never an in between. So that's why that dynamic exists, because you need to be phenomenal to thrive in this world. You need to not be affected by the amount of cheapness that has diluted the masculine need to want to self-improve today. You need to be someone who is very disciplined to not fall into the trap of distractions that have been engineered to trap the modern man into a state of stagnation. So that is the thing that has messed up the modern day man. And a lot of it has to do with women. Why? Because, like I said, women in the old days used to select for quality where it matters most. They used to do it, but nowadays they have zero standards. So any man goes. If you're a charming guy, sure, you've made her laugh. She can let you hit. If you're a good looking guy, sure, she likes the way you look. She can let you hit. It has cheapened the access level for men, because women were always the standard that men used to gauge for their success or failure rate. So, which is why nowadays men are the way they are. So if there's any man watching, I need you to kick yourself out of the matrix of this lack of ambition, the matrix of distractions, because there are many: social media, random access women. There's a lot of clubs nowadays. Alcohol is very cheap nowadays. A lot of fun things in life are very easily accessible and very cheap. So it tends to be very easy to be hooked on these things, and you get to lose sight of lose track of your ears. You tend to lose track of your vision. You tend to lose track of where you're heading in life, and that has become the one thing that kills most men. So if you're a man watching this video, you need to figure out how to unplug from the matrix. Delete all social medias if you're not using them, or if you have them, use them to market yourself. Do something good with your life. Craft a vision and dedicate yourself to it. Scrap off the distractions. It will work. Yeah? And if you're a woman, stop lowering your standard. Set your standard in a realistic place, of course, for sure, but set it high enough that the type of man you end up with is someone who has achieved something. It's not just an everyday common average Joe who has nothing to offer, but only ended up with you because you were so cheap. And when men advocate for women lowering the standards or making the standards achievable, it doesn't necessarily mean that we want you to cheapen them. We just want you to be realistic. But be realistic in a sense that you have standards that still edify you in a manner that the man who ends up with you is a man who has achieved something and has the capacity to take you somewhere in life. So that being said, go think about it, but that's all I have for now. Have a nice time.